and then start the conversation.
Yes, and we are officially live now.
Oh, okay, so then we can get started. Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to our monthly webinar series. This month we are tackling Earth Day celebration with AI for sustainability and conservation. So, as AI continues to reshape our work, its potential to address some of the planet's most pressing environmental challenges is coming into sharper focus, from protecting endangered species to optimizing renewable energy system. AI is emerging as a powerful tool in the global efforts towards sustainability and conservation. This month, as I mentioned before, in celebration of Earth Day, we're excited to explore the intersection of technology and the environment. We have brought together a panel of leaders and practitioners who are harnessing the power of AI to create a more sustainable future, and we're really excited about it. I'm Ana Maria Quintero. I'm currently community manager at LatinX in AI. I'm originally from Colombia, as some of the other panelists, where I'm currently based. And hosting this webinar is especially exciting for me because I understand firsthand how important it is to support initiatives and protect the environment, driving conservation efforts, not only in Colombia, but also in Latin America and all over the world. So this is why I'm really proud and excited to share this conversation with such an amazing group of people and experts and leaders into the sustainability and conservation effort. Particularly, we have Carolina Garcia. She is co-founder and CEO from Mycelio. Benjamin Ardila is CTO at Pitman. David Quispe is currently researcher associate at the Technical University of Munich. And Santiago Martinez Balvanera is a PhD researcher, I think currently professor at UCL. So I'm really excited to join you all. And I would like you to start this conversation by giving you the opportunity to introduce yourself a little bit. How is sustainability part of your career, and or if you transition from one field to another? Yeah, just to get you to know a little bit more. So if some of you would like to start, or maybe we can go with Caro right away.
Thank you, Anna, and hello, everyone joining from the YouTube channel and some others that are here on the Zoom call. Thank you for your attention and thank you for joining us in this conversation today. I'm Carolina García Arbeláez. I'm Colombian, and I've been working for a regenerative future for all my career. And when you said, what brought you into the sustainability space? I think it was my deep love for nature. I grew up in Colombia, one of the most biodiverse countries in the world, and I studied law. And I think I went to law school for a deep love for social justice and bringing justice to the world. But I didn't know that we were in the middle of a planetary crisis. And then I had one of the classes that changed my life forever, which was international environmental law, when I came to realize that we were in a severe, deep planetary crisis. Since that moment, I decided to dedicate my career into serving people on the planet. So I have not had a career change in that sense. All my career has been around this, but I have been changing sectors throughout my whole career, starting with the NGO movement, then working for the private sector and one of the largest multinationals for 8 years, and very recently creating my own business.
Great. It is really nice to see how not only from tech, but from law and all the careers can be helping to support the environment. So maybe we can go with a different path. Benja, I know you're an engineer. So would you like to tell us a little bit about your journey and what are you working right now?
Great. Thank you again for the invite. Super excited to be here. Yeah, my path has been a little bit different from Carolina's. I'm industrial engineer. I started working for different type of businesses. I first entered the world of analytics in 2010, working in banking, telecom, and consulting, like all the big businesses where money is made. And around like 2020, something shifted I arrived to these type of topics in a very naive and unintentional way. Although I had been curious, something struck me. I started to get more interested, and I started to formally studying. Like I didn't know where to start or how to enter this. And I also, like Carolina, start learning about the urgency and all the potential to do something meaningful. And that happened in 2020, but I had to wait for some time. And fast forward to 7 months ago, I decided, and actually this was encouraged by a previous boss who really incentivized this and made me a really good question. It's, what is the purpose of what I want to achieve in my life? So I decided at age 40 to switch pretty much careers and switch it from a gigantic multinational company to sustainability. And today, as you mentioned, Anna, I'm proud to serve as CTO at Bitman, where we are focused on accelerating the transition to renewable energies in Mexico. So this is a country that is facing one of the biggest challenges in Latin America, with a very, very heavy carbon-intensive electricity grid. So that is a bit about my career.
That's super cool. I think that as you, I also am trying to change my career towards conservation and sustainability. Many of us are. So I know that working in energy is also David. So maybe David, you would like to give us a little bit of a introduction about yourself, how that led you to conservation. I know you worked before um, for for companies that use fuel, for example. So maybe you would like to give us also an intro of yourself.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me as well. I'm very glad to be here. Glad to be part of this conversation. Very quick. So I am from Ecuador. I come from an indigenous background. I started working in the Ecuadorian Amazon, obviously for an oil and gas industry. That was the way to make money. It is still the way to make money in some of our countries. Very weird. I use all my knowledge to create systems to bring oil from the ground. But then I worked a couple of years there. I saw, although we care a lot about the environment, things don't go the way that we expect. And I saw firsthand all these changes that we produce for the people and the environment. So I said, this is not what I want to do for my life. So that's when I moved to Toronto. In Toronto, I trained myself in AI. So I work a lot in optimization. And then in 2022, I got in touch with an organization that is called Climate Change AI. And so I started working with summer schools. I volunteer a couple of times as a mentor. And there's where I really found how to apply AI in climate-related issues. Right now, I work in a bunch of things, but my main focus is on applied driven innovation machine learning. So the idea is how we can help to solve some of those problems.
Sounds good. So you and Ben probably have a lot to talk. And last but not least, I would like to introduce Santiago. I know you work with bioacoustics, so that's amazing. So if you would like to give us a little bit of introduction about your work and how do you get into AI and conservation, of course.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, so also really happy to be here. I'm really honored to be joining you and talking with you about these really important topics. So I also come from Mexico, although maybe I think as Carolina, my sustainability has always been part of my life in some sense. Both my parents are biologists in Mexico, and so I was really small. We would go to all these different ecosystems, from the tropical rainforest to the desert. And it was, first of all, like just falling in love with nature. But then second of all, I think this is kind of a very shared experience with everyone in Latin America, which is you contrast that with all the change that you see, the deforestation, impact of extraction of resources. And I think that was kind of very early experience for me growing up in Mexico. But then, like, I went to university, I decided to do something very different. So I studied maths, pure abstract maths, for my bachelor and my master's. And after that, I decided it was time for me to find a way of kind of using the knowledge I have gained to something that was meaningful for me, which is sustainability. So I was really lucky to find this position at CONABIO, which is the Mexican Commission for Biodiversity. And the whole topic around CONABIO at the time was kind of how do we scale up our ability to monitor biodiversity in Mexico. And I was lucky to be part of the audio team, which was kind of looking at using audio recordings as a way to understand where animals are. So yeah, that fast forward 6 years, 7 years, I don't know how much. And now I finally managed to finish my PhD at UCL. It was on the topic of bioacoustics, so using AI to enable us to understand and listen to biodiversity kind of at scale. So, yeah.
Great, that sounds amazing. So, well, now that we have all introduced yourself and we know in which topic we work, so yeah, we're very lucky to have you. And then I would love to hear your thoughts about the role of AI in sustainability. It's not there's no doubt that AI is changing everything. So if you could imagine yourself waking up 5 or 10 years from now, what's one major sustainability challenge that you hope AI has helped solve then? And where do you see more potential? I know that sustainability has a lot of, there's a really huge spectrum of applications, but which one do you think is worth to be solving right away and that you hope in 10 years or 5 years from now, AI has been helping to solve that? Maybe we can go ahead with the energy guys, David or Benja, if you have something about it.
Benjamin, you can go first. You want?
Okay, thank you. So regarding the energy sector, I would like to imagine myself in a world where electricity grids are super intelligent and they can seamlessly absorb like the huge amount of new renewables that the world will be producing, because it will happen without blackouts. I think it's good to mention blackouts today, where Europe is almost half of Europe is without electricity, where there's no wasted energy, where there's no extra cost. So this is something that can definitely happen. And this is only possible through AI, by developing real-time energy intelligence, dynamic systems that manage some complexity that is increasing, that is decentralized, that is able to absorb these intermittent sources of energy with precision and flexibility. So this will definitely have a gigantic impact in the decarbonization of our energy systems, making clean electricity reliable, affordable, and accessible.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's not only about AI and predicting, but also monitoring. So that's a huge leakage in many sectors that are not monitoring their consumptions or their waste. So yeah, I totally agree with you. What do you think about this, David? Or do you have another application for the futures I would like to see?
So really, I really agree with what Benjamin said. I was thinking about it and I said, oh, I would like to wake up in this world where people take climate crisis seriously. Okay, beside of all the hype about AI, I would like to see, presidents, people taking seriously the climate crisis. So that's something that I will love to wake up in 10 years and see that everybody's doing something so we don't get to the tipping points of this climate crisis. So that will be my goal. But in terms of AI, I also see this, decentralized energy systems where people can sell your energy to other people like without problems. So right now, you can now sell your energy to somebody that is needing that energy. So that peer-to-peer energy trading could be something that I really envision in the future. Obviously, intelligent buildings. So a building that is so efficient that can control itself to say, okay, right now I need to use this type of energy, or I have to do this type of changes. And just to kind of finalize the idea in 10 years, I hope also that we have got to the point of energy equity. You know, there are some places where they don't still have electricity or energy, and I hope that at some point everybody's able to get a like clean and affordable energy.
Yeah, you mentioned a really important point, that is that we need to be aware of what the planet needs. And I think that Caro has many expertise in these fields. She has also worked with communities. So maybe, Caro, you would like to give us your perspective about this, and what would you like to see in 5 or 10 years?
Well, if you ask me what would be my biggest wish in 10 years, I, of course, would love to wake up in a society that is based on care and based on interdependence with nature, and that, in fact, is collectively working towards a regenerative system. Will AI take us there? I'm not sure. It might. It has the capacity to help us head towards that place, but it also has the capacity to lead us in a very, very opposite direction. So I just wanted to bring this also as a provocative point, because I think we all agree that we are currently in the middle of a planetary crisis. We have already surpassed 6 out of the 9 planetary boundaries. We're facing the 6th mass extinction of the planet, and we are all collectively grieving that we're losing our home, right? And that is coupled also with this like revolution in technology, with this like giant surge in AI. However, and I love this phrase of Bayo Akomolafi that says, what if the way we respond to the crisis is part of the crisis? And I think the way that we are responding to the crisis itself, it's not asking the question of what originated the crisis in the first place. So this means like we have a society that has been built and has emerged under certain paradigms. So on the one hand, for example, we believe that we are separated from nature. And in the best case scenario, we're heroes that are going to serve nature. In the worst case scenario, we dominate nature and can control nature, but we're never part of nature. We're in a paradigm of extraction, not of collaboration. And what we've seen is that in this rush of solving, we're also replacing one extraction with the other. I'm not debunking like the important role of renewable energy and the decarbonization and energy transition, but the way to solve the climate crisis is not with renewable energy. It's not transitioning from massively extraction of fossil fuels to massively extraction of other minerals to create solar panels that can bring us a clean electricity grid if we don't question the extraction paradigm itself. And what is happening with AI is that, of course, on the one hand, is creating this opportunity to optimize, to become more energy efficient. However, if we've seen like energy efficiencies throughout history, what it has created, it has never reduced the use of electricity. On the one hand, it has enabled like cost efficiencies that has allowed us to do things that we couldn't do before, some of them that are very pervasive at the same time. So what is my biggest concern right now, and I think that is going to be the biggest obstacle in order to reach these dreams that we have for a better future in 10 years, is that things are moving super fast and we're basically all in an arms race, right? Everyone is working on AI right now. All the investment is going through AI right now. However, we're doing it so fast because each player wants to be ahead of the other one, that we're doing it without any collective wisdom of the intention and the direction that we want AI to help us walk through. So does AI have benefits and can help us get into that regenerative future, or the future where everyone is aware of the climate crisis that David says, or the future that Benjamin said of having really smart cities with intelligent smart grids. It can. Will it take us there? I'm not sure, because we are not developing AI with the wisdom that society needs. And if we don't, like, of course, there are really good use cases that are incentivizing sustainability, but AI is also being used to also further, impact the sectors that are actually destroying living systems. So I think that we need to talk more about the wisdom behind AI and where do we want AI to take us, and not take for granted that it's going to be like the solution to the problems, because it might not be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And also, AI is a tool, and if you don't use it correctly, it can have positive impact, but also negative impacts for many, many people and other living beings in this planet. So maybe about what you're saying, and probably Santiago, since you have this background with your parents being ecologists and you being involved with this conservatory field, what do you feel about it? And are you optimistic about how AI is a tool that could be potentially solving these problems in 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, I am optimistic, although I definitely hear what Carolina is saying, and it is a massive concern. So, for example, my vision in the next 5-10 years is about, again, I'm kind of working with audio in general, AI, as a way of understanding what's there. The best way of knowing what's there, at least the true known way that knowing what's there, is just someone being there and listening to all the birds and looking at the nature. And we are kind of rushing that process of trying to put out sensors everywhere to exactly map out, just because we cannot do that ourselves because we're so busy doing something else, right? And I do agree that there could be another option, which is just go to the route of maybe not having that rush of building and developing and stuff like that. For myself, I don't know. I know I think acoustic technologies and using AI for that, for biodiversity monitoring, can definitely bring us something that we don't have at the moment. And I think in 5-10 years, it could be really helpful for example, organizations like Conavio, which is public sector, might be thinking a bit more on kind of public benefit of how to use that information to decide where to build something or not to build something. I think that's a really interesting tool or application of that tool. Also, I think one of the things I would really like to see in 5-10 years is that these technologies are also relatively cheap and easy to use by someone who's maybe not the government or not a kind of a wealthy research institute or something else, but rather, for example, people who can use that technology to ascertain that a species is there and use it as a way of protecting their own, for example, resources, natural resources. I think in the end, it is really hard to predict. Of course, there are powerful players in AI, and we always need to watch out for those.
Yeah, I think we all agree that AI is a tool, and basically many things can happen. It's changing super quick. And sometimes this fast path that we're having in particularly AI is not letting us realize that there are tools that we can use that don't have many is not the ultimate application, but maybe something that could be could be very beneficial. And maybe in your experience, are there tools that are underrated but that could be life game changing, particularly for conservation? For example, as I mentioned earlier, it's not only about predicting but also monitoring, and some applications are way less expensive than the latest AI models that predict and of course consume a lot of energy. So in your experiences, are there any tools that are underrated that AI is supporting, for example, monitoring, or another applications that you have seen that don't have the recognitions that it should? Or yeah, what have you seen about this? I don't know who wants to go
I can get started. Very quick, before I answer that, I totally agree with what Carolina said. So there is this new movement where some people from Hugging Face, they are proposing to have energy starts, we can call it, for each of the models. So we want to control, for instance, the energy consumption of the energy model. So we are not doing exactly what Carolina said, which is let's not extract oil, but let's still generate energy with oil so we can feed the AI models. So it's still a circle that we need to break somehow. So I think people in the AI research field, we are very concerned about that as well. So people are working and we are trying to work on that. But just to go back to what you said, Anna, I strongly believe that predicting and monitoring is very important, and AI can do a very good job. But also something that we don't need to forget is controlling. So in this specifically in my field, related to energy and how to help the energy transition, controlling is something that is very complicated. So there are so many constraints. It's so hard to understand something, and even it's harder to control it when you don't understand. So just to bring back what Benjamin said, right now, Spain and part of Portugal, they have a full out power outage. They don't have energy, and obviously you don't have phone, you don't have internet, your train stops, so your life stops completely. Everything stops, right? So I think something that is is a tool that people don't really think about it is humans have been doing that control. So right now there are an operator in a power plant doing that work. And some people say, okay, we are going to use AI, and now those operators are going to be without a job. In my perspective, is the opposite. And that's exactly the tool that I want to bring, which is the human factor into what AI is doing. So the idea is not to get rid of the operators, but provide tools that can leverage on all the experience and the knowledge of the operators, so we can actually answer things or maybe just act when things like that are happening right now, like failures like the ones that I just described are happening. So I think the human part is a tool that some people in the AI field and also in other fields are kind of saying, oh, we don't need humans anymore, but that's the human is the one that we need. And we need to remember that everything we build is for the human, so for the person, for the people around, okay? So I think that's something that is very underrated.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And sometimes there are labs that are focused on developing models and developing data, but they don't work directly with the final user and the final population that will get impacted by these solutions. So it's really important to work hand by hand with all the stakeholders and people around it. So maybe I don't know who wants to go next about an underrated tool. Could we even like create awareness of the challenges? Maybe there are many news that people are using ChatGPT for applications that do not make sense, or so companies that are still doing things in the same way. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but maybe some of you would like to highlight an application that is not getting enough recognition.
I think I can mention something a little bit different. And I mean, I totally understand where Carolina is coming from. I mean, I have a more technological approach, but I clearly understand that not everything can be solved with technology, and it's like very short-sighted to try to put more on top just to try to fix the problem that technology has been created. But I think specific applications, even though they're not like super sexy, can generate a huge impact. One that I think we will going to be hearing more and more about, something that has already been delivering a lot of impact and that could clearly generate a gigantic bad environmental impact, but it can generate something very good in terms of great reliability, is batteries. So batteries is a super interesting technology. I don't have a chemistry background, but I've been like super focused the last few months on reading everything about batteries. And I think it is a kind of technology that where the application of AI can generate gigantic, and is already providing gigantic improvements. So, for example, the batteries for electric cars have experienced an average decline in price of over 20% year on year over the last like 12, 13 years. And there's a lot of impact in terms of grid stability that can be used reusing the batteries of the cars, and also like separated independent systems that are called battery energy storage systems. So here the possibilities in terms of how to use AI is like developing new types of batteries with more cycles, that instead of having 1,000 cycles, you have 2,000 cycles. So suddenly they live twice as long. So the amount of impact is half, or they can use less pollutant compounds, so using sodium instead of lithium. So last week CATL released like a new type of batteries for cars with sodium. So instead of using lithium, where the mining can get a bit sketchy, you can use something that comes from the salt. So here the possibilities is like very extensive, like playing, and the only way to do it is around using AI, like playing with a multiple set of materials, combinations, physical designs. I think it's a super exciting thing that can be accelerated through AI. And of course, and I think all of you have mentioned that it depends on what are the type of things that you are trying to prioritize. And I think here with the right set of objective functions and constraints, we could be achieving like a lot of capability to decarbonize, again, transportation, make the grid more reliable, and also facilitate the reduction of environmental impact.
And I think that point is very important, because I think we can all agree that even though AI is going to primarily help us like gain many efficiencies and expand the life cycle of, like you were talking about, batteries, I think in the short term, this surge on AI, is of course going to increase emissions in the short term, but it can help us like radically change into the decarbonization if we use it for that purpose. I was reading that like projected AI could use like 4% of global electricity by 2030, which is a lot compared that right now it's like less than it's like 0.2% or something of like the global electricity use, and like we're gonna have that. And I think that's a trade-off that we can make if we know that then we're going to use all of the greatest efforts to actually decarbonize, because otherwise like we are also delaying the peak of emissions, right? Like we know that we need emissions to peak as soon as possible. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to keep us well below 2 degrees, which is like the biggest aim of the Paris Agreement. We shouldn't be increasing more than 1.5, and that's already probably lost to this point. And I want to be optimistic, of course, but and I'm a stubborn optimist. That's even my mantra, but I don't want to be naive about the facts. Like we need to be optimistic, but we also need to be very clear of what is happening in order to have all this information and make the right decision. So we know that emissions need to peak ASAP. Otherwise, then that is going to be a very steep curve to actually reduce emissions. And at some point, we're going to be trapped in terms of like, okay, how do we do this without shutting down our economy, blah, blah, blah. So I agree that there is a huge potential, and I think it's never the point to question the potential. I think the potential is there, but the potential without the ethical conversations and the wisdom and the governance and the regulation can also have like the contrary impact. And also a quick comment on Santiago's work, because I think bioacoustics is so interesting, and like the potential also around about what AI and like getting like real-time data can enable us for conservation. There are many, well, not many, but there are some really good cases right now. I think one that has been spoken of so much was like this collab with Microsoft to tackle deforestation in the Amazon using bioacoustics, using satellite imagery, and being able to process with AI and machine learning all this information in real time. And I think it was amazing to see, like, from the results that, for example, deforestation rates and hotspots, they could be like identified in real time. And of course, like that, thousands of birds could be monitored with bioacoustic with like an 80% accuracy, which of course gives you like an indicator of the health of ecosystems. And that's amazing, like enabling data. If we think like one of the biggest biodiversity hotspots is having so many deforestation fronts, many also coming from illegal activities, and that for governments is very hard to control that. So if you have real-time information, there's the opportunity to actually act and deliver and address that issue, which is of course putting in jeopardy all the like, yeah, like that stability of like all the Amazon region. If like we are like all the Amazon countries are so dependent in the Amazon that if we don't protect this biome, like even like the hydrological system of all the region could be like radically affected. So we need to put a lot of our efforts into protecting this space, and like bioacoustics and the results that we have also on some of these pilots could really enable the governments across the biome to cooperate and tackle this very complex challenge.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, just to, yeah, thank you for the comment. It's, yeah, bioacoustics is really interesting. And I guess just to say also, conservation itself is kind of filled with many complexities in terms of ethics as well, because depends on who's using that information for what. There can be kind of good or unjust outcomes. And you still need to kind of be very careful about your environmental impact and whether it's kind of the best way of going forward with understanding where biodiversity is. But I think still, I also completely agree with David in the sense that, of course, there's AI kind of brings us these visions of everything is automated. We don't need to do anything, just push a button, and then you get all the information you need at any time. But I think also ecosystems, maybe they're not an industrial system, but they're also quite really, really complex and really hard. And there's a lot of kind of nuanced knowledge that a lot of people have, both expert biologists that go in the field and like understand the behavior of birds, or people who live there, who like just live with birds or bats or other animals. And I think it's really hard for, at least now, for the models to capture all of that nuance. And that's why we are seeing, I mean, even though we have models that are able to detect like 6,000 bird species, which is incredible, we don't really know how well they actually apply when in like a real life monitoring situation. Or I mean, there are good results still, but there's so much uncertainty. And we really need to find a way of kind of putting, again, like the human in the center, as a way of kind of understanding the quality of the outputs of the model, to improving that and making something that works for the AI. AI consumes data, consumes a lot of things, but then also, again, going back to the human, that we know that those results are aligned with whatever the conservation goals are, or whatever. So I think in terms of that, there are, for example, machine learning techniques that are used, for example, active learning, which is kind of an easy way of allowing humans to more easily navigate the tons of audio data, because it's a real issue once you have millions and millions of hours that no one can actually listen to. So just to be able to find the kind of examples that you need in order to feed the data, to feel more confident about the results, I think there's a bit more focus on kind of more that data quality and data aspect of the AI development that needs more focus now that we know that there's some nice fancy models that can do it.
Just as a quick as a quick complement to that, I would say it's not about putting only humans at the center. It's about putting living systems at the center, and also all the more than human world, because really what has brought us into this planetary crisis is to have this anthropocentric view where humans, like everything revolves around humans, and we've lost the sense that we're actually interdependent and interconnected with all nature. So we're destroying all living systems, even though we depend directly from all living systems. So I think it's part of our narrative that we need to change, that only humans need to be at the center, like living systems need to be at the center, and we need to take care of this common world that we have.
Yeah, I totally agree with you both. I have had the opportunity to talk directly with biologists that are learning to use AI, and they do think that there is a lot of potential. But again, many solutions are in a lab, in a basement, where they don't have interaction, nor with the living systems, as you mentioned, Caro, and also none with the final user that will be the people that are actually having an impact. So I think that it's really important to highlight this intersection between all knowledge. And for example, the batteries that Benja is mentioning, the chemical engineers are also a big part of it. And is this transition of AI needs to have these also sources of knowledge that we as engineer probably don't have. So I think it's really great. And I know that we have talked about challenges, but now driving the conversation more directly to the challenges that we are facing. Yeah, so what have been your strategies, to apply this into the real world? We see many models that are on a computer, on a notebook, or on the cloud. But as Caro mentioned, it's really important to make sure that these are part of systems, living systems, or company systems, or to have an application. So how have been your strategies to involve these technologies into something that can be really straightforward on what it's their impact and how to measure that? So probably, Benja, you as CTO need to know this. This has to have an impact directly. So how are your strategies to involve AI into outputs that can be tangible?
Thank you for the question. I think I've come to a point in my career where everything that I did previously, like in big companies, now is just super useful to accelerate the adoption of these type of solutions in my current context. I have to mention also, like, working for a private company. I need to understand that we need to make financial sound decisions that we need. I mean, our success is measured by profit, part of it, and of course we also measure decarbonization. So for me, just trying to make the business I work in successfully is like the biggest goal that I can achieve, of course, with clear side effects in terms of environmental impact. In terms of strategy, it's the same that I've been applying pretty much everywhere in other businesses. And it's one, focus on delivering value from the beginning. So working on proof of concepts, MVPs, working super closely to the business and users. And this is for, a renewable energy company, and this applies for any type of company. Just doing things that make sense and generate impact and that we can quantify. And the second part is just focusing on the communication and change management part. That is super complex. I remember working for BCG in one of my previous lives. Normally, you have analytics that achieved like 10% of the impact of one project, 20% was achieved by technology, and 70% is the people, the processes, how things are done. So here, I think the challenge as former data scientist, although I have like a clear data science background is not focused so much on the purity of the technical solution, but make things that work and generate value. It's better to have something that is incomplete. It can be let's say not super sophisticated analytical model, but that delivers value to the customers, to the users. So that part of understanding the adoption of the AI systems, how decisions are being made, how the results are being quantified, like in any other business, is critical, because else you will be dreaming about something that might generate some impact at some point. But here, like in every other thing, reality is what matters, and bringing tangible results is all that matters.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is related to the controlling part and the measuring part of every solution that, I mean, even though like solutions that are apart from AI, everything needs to be quantified and needs to be located on a process and a system. So probably, Santiago, your field is super huge in conservation. So I know you have work in research, but how do you see like these type of solutions involved on a real scenario, and how companies have started to do this? As Caro mentioned, Microsoft have many initiatives that are focused on AI for good. So in your experience, how do you think these solutions can be involved into companies, organizations, governments, and yeah, how so we can make decisions more efficient, as Caro mentioned before, with the governments and decision makers?
Yeah, so yeah, thanks for the question. I think there are several issues. Of course, one kind of relatively easy to name, which is sometimes these solutions, AI in general is kind of very technical topic. And so I think especially in research is not always kind of the main interest to make it something easy to use for someone else. You kind of basically do your proof of concept, you publish a paper, and then you move on. But one of the things have been kind of very concerned about is making it usable for the, maybe, let's say, not totally end user, but a bit closer. So for example, I do have kind of the liberty to maybe put a bit more focus on developing open solutions, meaning open source tools that, for example, if someone wants to pick up, it could be Conavio, for example, could be, I'm working now with the Bat Conservation Trust here in the UK. So they pick up the tools that we've been developing in my research to, for example, annotate audio, to like say, okay, here's the recordings of birds and bats, and this is the training material we'll use to develop the models. And then also thinking about kind of the usability of that training pipeline, so that in the end you have something that is not hard to use, because otherwise no one will pick it up. And then I guess another big important thing I've been really thinking about is the way you can also make it a bit more impactful in the real world is to kind of embed standards from the very beginning. Because I don't know, I think in terms of data science, there's always kind of a big issue, which is you can produce data, but then in the end, ingesting that data for someone else might be really complicated, because everyone has their own formats and stuff like that. So we've been kind of pushing forward to make some sort of a kind of data standard in the bioacoustic world, so that whatever kind of we create as a software solution, someone else can pick up, even though it's only the outcomes, and then they can understand it and integrate it with their own platform. So I think even though it may be kind of a bit from the outside, we are thinking of that. Finally, I would like to say there's this other thing we do. Like I personally also think quite a lot, which is kind of the adaptability of the solutions, because I think I always do research thinking about the reality of, like currently people who want to do acoustic monitoring, they are challenged by the fact that we don't have enough kind of data to kind of create accurate models. So doing research within that particular context and figuring out, okay, what are some methodologies that we can use in order to kind of alleviate that lack of data, or find kind of innovative solutions for that. I think that's another way maybe down the line can have kind of more real world impact.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, like David says, that there are many constraints about not only sharing, I mean, he mentioned sharing energy, but that also involves like sharing data, sharing resources, sharing knowledge. Sometimes that knowledge is on private companies. So yeah, but it has to be on a context where every output can be measurable. So I think this also relates with another question that I have down there, that it's getting involving like the communities where these applications are going to be is serving. So I don't know, maybe David or Caro, you would like to mention something about how this also can be really impactful for communities that, for example, have never used a computer before or don't know how to read, how to write. That's a big challenge, and sometimes we're not aware of it. So how do you think about integrating communities into these processes uh, of having the models and having the data, as Santiago mentioned? How do you see this?
I can go first, Carol, if you're okay with that. Yeah, so I think it's very important to involve the communities, especially because they have the knowledge. I think Santiago said something very important. The models are still not very accurate. Sometimes robustness is not the best. So we still need people, humans, the communities there. So it's very important. But something that I would like to say that is a bit related is that in South America or maybe in the global South, we don't have this exposure to AI or all the things that we could do with AI. I know that is not a tool that could solve everything, but if we don't start learning about it, it's going to be harder after. So I think involving the communities, it is not just, let's say I have an AI project that I want to help you, but also involving the communities is helping these people understand this new technology so they are no behind. Although we are already behind, we cannot be even more like, So that's something very important. And there is a project that is close to my heart. It's called AI. We have a project in Ecuador where we teach indigenous kids about AI opportunities. Okay, so we don't want them to be AI researchers, or we want to if they want. But what we do is we put the knowledge in front of them so they can see all the potential, and if they want to do it, they can choose to do it. I think that is important as well, giving them the option and the opportunity. So yeah, my take will be communities are important, but not just involving for the project, but also training them and showing them the opportunities that we have with AI to solve some of the problems that will, at the end, they will be the ones that are the most affected after all these things happening, right? So yeah, I think that's important as well.
Yeah, and perhaps to complement on that, like, well, we see that the adoption right now from all the organizations have been massive. I was reading this survey done by McKinsey, and it says that over 70% of like the organizations that they surveyed are already using AI in at least one of their functions. So and this is early 2024, and I think that, well, this has been a game changer for the past 2-3 years. I remember, and I tell this anecdote, when like ChatGPT became live and DALI became live, I even sat down with my parents, with my family, and I was like, okay, this is out. You need to learn how to use it. Like, let's even play with it. Let's see how this work. And right now, I think we can all agree, and probably many of you listening to this webinar, you can all agree that somehow you're using AI in your daily life. And back to David's point, like, you don't want to be in a point where this becomes like so advanced and you're so left behind that it's really hard to adopt that technology. And yeah, so a lot of like AI literacy, we need to invest on that so everyone knows how to use it. Because this is perhaps like one of those leaps, like when we had the internet coming up, that it's becoming very, very fast. That's it. And I think the biggest challenge for me and for my co-founders in Mycelium, it's the conversation of, okay, AI, but what for? And like, I think again, it's like AI, not for the sake of AI, but like purposefully using AI And the problem with like this race that I don't think I had experienced that, or that we've had seen something as big as this, because like the adoption of AI, like in terms of millions of users using it in just like a couple of years, we have never seen that before. And I think that we're all coping with that overwhelming feeling, and like the race. But David was even putting that in terms of the race for Latin America. We cannot like be left behind. The global south cannot be left behind. And I think everyone feels that, like, if I don't integrate AI into my organization, will I be left behind? Will I be left out of the market? So I need to integrate it ASAP. I need to like start using it ASAP, because no one wants to be obsolete. But because no one wants to be obsolete, like everyone is integrating it, and in many cases very without the reflection that it's required for that. Of course, in many ways, I think the like AI has benefited many like stakeholders within the sustainability space. Just in terms of sustainability professionals, like over 40% of organizations right now are using AI like for automated to make it like more automatic and easy, that reporting. And I think this has been great in terms that sustainability practitioners for the past years were so focused a lot on reporting and the need for traceability and information, which is very important, but um, most of their energy and time was being focused on that. So if now we're using AI to analyze all this data, to collect all this data, to give us insights on this data, like, of course, this frees up the time to get the job done, right? Like to have that impact, high impact projects that at the end is what we really care for done. So that's good as well. So yeah, for me, like the biggest challenge is, I know that we need to use it. At Mycelo, you were using it, but I really want to make sure that we're not using it for the sake of it, that in any like integration of AI in whatever that we're doing, or however we are advising our clients to use it, it comes like with a very reflective side to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in the end, the people who have that purpose or that final goal are communities, are organizations, are companies that would like to have an impact, as for example, Bitman with Benja. So yeah, I totally agree. And well, I know that we're running out of time, so if you could really quickly, just to close up the conversation, and if you would like to give any word to AI practitioners that wants to have a meaningful impact on the environment, or if on the other side you would like to talk to environmental, practitioners about AI, would you like to give them a couple of words just to close up the conversation? And I know that everything has been super important and this conversation has been super useful, but just to have a couple last words. Maybe Santiago, you would like to go first to it.
Yeah, I would say, particularly to the conservationists, I think it is really important to acknowledge the fact that AI will enable kind of collecting data massively, and that's really enticing, really attractive. But I would say let's just kind of be careful, kind of be a bit slower than things are moving, because we don't want to start drawing conclusions from the data we collect unless we're fully certain that it is accurate. And I think at the moment there's still some research needed to be done in order to like really make sure that it is accurate. So yeah, that's my point. And of course, importantly, I think not to be not to add to this feeling of being left behind, but rather kind of have a look, a kind of more curious look about the use of AI, because it's actually kind of a really interesting technology. Like I think it would be most beneficial if everyone gets involved in the development of AI, so that we can make sure that it actually aligns to what we need as conservationists.
Thank you, Santiago. Maybe David or Benja would like to give or Caro.
I can go like super quickly, and it's just, I mean, for me, sustainability has been a revelation. I think that revelation can occur to anyone at any age. So I encourage everyone just to read and to do whatever they can from wherever they are. So, I mean, if you work in supply, just try to find better providers, better suppliers that generate less impact. So, in any type of role, you can make a difference. You don't have to be like building your own startup with AI related. I think just reading, being curious, understanding, and changing. Like I mean, if every company had people that know about the environment, I think each one could drive some change from the system within. And even people who work at oil companies, I'm sure there's people like super, super smart people that can make a difference, even though it's generating some revenues for them in efficiencies or whatever. I mean, I think from every type of corner, we can do something about this. And it's never too late to start doing something.
And to that point, I think we're in the most interesting moment in time because like there's so many paths to take, right? That can lead us to very, very, very different views of the future. And I think it's an amazing opportunity for our generation to be part of building that future that can be better, brighter, or can be worse. So I don't think like I love that Benjamin is encouraging people to read about sustainability, to foster that curious mind. But I also would add to that at the end, like what we're building is together, that we can build together the future of our society in this world, in a society where, in a world that we share, right? It's not only for us. And I have here just like beautiful coincidence, but this amazing foundation in Colombia called Common World that I support and work with as well. And they're full of beauty. I just love them. And they usually give like these little cards. And I was saving this one. And it's a phrase from this mythologist called Michael Meade. And it says, whether we know it or not, our lives are acts of imagination, and the world is continually reimagined through us. And I think this is very important because at the end, like the world will become what we are reimagining through us. And right now we have this amazing tool, this amazing, powerful tool that gives us godlike powers. But if we don't have the wisdom, if we just have the godlike power, then the world that this will bring us, it's a quite dystopic world. If we take a pause and back to Santiago saying, okay, let's slow down. And I love the phrase from Bayo Acumulafit that says, the times are urgent, slow down. Use this space to actually reflect, to actually not just follow like blindfoldly this arms race that we're currently at, or because if we don't take the time to think it through, if you don't become an active member of this conversation, and if you don't think it through, then like you're just going to be so entrenched in the output, and then it's going to be irreversible, right? So we're right now in the moment to shape things, to question things. Don't take anything for granted, and be part of that, because we're in a moment where everything, absolutely everything, is at stake.
Maybe just to add on top of all the things that you have said, I think interdisciplinary is very important right now. So we need AI researchers that know about climate science. We need climate scientists that know about AI. And we know people that know about their field of expertise, environmentalists, engineers. So we need to work together. But also we need those people that maybe they are not engineers or environmentalists, but they have a unique background. And my call is for those indigenous people in different places that they also need to be involved, because as Carolina said, we are here to help shape how to use these tools for something that is useful for all of us. So I think I just want to say that it's a moment for us to get together and work in an interdisciplinary way. Interdisciplinary way is just bringing all these ideas together and respecting different ideas and using them to create something useful for all of us.
Well, thank you so much. All your words were really inspiring for me, and I'm sure that for everyone that listens this panel. So I would like to personally thank you all for participating, accepting this invitation. Thank you for the people that join us through Zoom or through YouTube later. So I hope you can take something to work on later. But yeah, that was the monthly webinar for this month. Thank you for participating, and we didn't get a chance to take questions, but I'm sure that if we discussed outside the call, everyone will be willing to help. So thank you all, and I wish you a very good day today and a week.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, everyone, for
you.
joining us.
Thank you. Bye.